Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
What's up, y'all? I'm KC.
And I'm Tyler, and this is another Big Buck Breakdown from the Element Podcast.
Brought to you by Exodus Trail Cameras.
All right, so now on the phone we've got Slade Daniel. He is with Realtree, Banded, Mossy Oak, Sitka, Waterfowl, Slade Northwest. What else? Who else are you affiliated with?
Drake,
sure. That's right. Yeah, for sure. How did I even miss that one?
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Get them all.
Yeah.
So, Ducks Unlimited national chairman, is that right?
Yeah, national chairman for the Hopkins County chapter. There you go.
Slade is a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast before, so second appearance here, but first time it was me and him in person. We were talking a little bit of waterfowl stuff. Slade is a big-time duck hunter. I wouldn't say a big duck hunter, though, right, KC?
No, Slade is definitely on the slender side of duck hunters, I would say.
He's medium-sized duck hunter.
This is the guy who can still go and score goals on the high schoolers up there at the Prim. So,
that's right.
He's in it, man.
Yeah. So you and I were talking about a little bit of CrossFit and soccer stuff lately. You played soccer in college, and you're still living those glory days now, right?
Man, you are. That's what I'm doing, man. And I've been doing a little CrossFit and trying to relive those glory days of playing soccer. But I will be completely honest with you. It is just so much fun competing again. I didn't realize how much I was missing that.
Yeah.
We grew up competing, and then obviously in high school and college, and then it's fun to just kind of have that competition come back out and just have that friendly competition again. It's not as intense as it used to be, but it definitely it's actually become therapy for me. So I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, dude. You can tell being around you. That you are definitely a competitive guy. You know, you like to rib people a lot, especially if they're missing ducks and that kind of thing. You know, so.
Oh baby, yeah, it's all right. I grew up in a locker room, and so it's just part of it, man. And so I'm definitely used to it, taking it on the chin, but I will definitely dish it back out whether I know you or not.
Man, them poor high school kids that go with us sometimes, they don't even know what's about to hit them, do they?
Oh my gosh, that's the best part about it, right? Is getting some younger kids out in the duck blind and just talking mad trash to where they're almost even too nervous to shoot because they don't know what I'm going to say after they shoot and miss. So
that's funny because
we've got some good footage from it too, actually, of messing with those little kids.
Yeah,
that's the kind of takeouts you got to do in East Texas. Like, there's just not that many ducks, so you got to get everybody scared to shoot, and that way you can actually shoot and kill ducks, right? Isn't that how it goes?
Exactly. I hope the game warden's not listening, but I'm trying to shoot their limit too.
Yeah. Dude, so speaking of that, like, how legal is this big buck we're about to talk about?
Bro, it is probably the biggest 8-point, 14-inch spread that my little 200-acre lease that I hunt has ever seen.
Yeah.
So it's a beast on that property. So we hunt a little piece of property outside of Northeast Texas, and it's a lease we've been on for the last 3 years or so. And we got on it with some guys from church, and there haven't been really a lot of bucks killed on this property, and the surrounding neighbors have done a really good job and have killed some pretty solid bucks. And so it actually had turned into, and as you know, Tyler, it's turned into more of a hog killing place and a place where we shoot a lot of gadwalls and wood ducks and the random mallard every now and then. But it just hasn't produced the deer that we wanted it to. And so this year we actually finally, thank goodness, had some legal shooting bucks that came on camera.
So let's just make sure, because there's a lot of different listeners out there, but legal would be 13 inches wide, right? And that's kind of not as easy as you'd think.
That's right.
Out in East Texas. So
sorry, that's my little man coming in crying. So wifey got him out of here. So sorry about that. But so in Hopkins County, legal buck, 13 inches wide, and that's outside the ears, just as a reference point. And so it's something that we stick strict to, and so a 1 buck county as well. And so we told ourselves this year, we're paying for this lease, and if a legal buck 3 years plus age as well comes out, we're definitely going to take a shot at it.
Yeah, and that's with thermal, right? Y'all are shooting them with thermal.
Yeah. So thermal and night vision in front of the thermal with the red dot and suppressed.
Yes. Yeah.
On my crossbow, by the way.
Right. So they actually, Casey's going to let you off the hook here about this, but I'm not. The crossbow thing, you did actually shoot it with a crossbow, right?
I did. So we do a lot of bow fishing, and this year my brother-in-law actually it might have been my nephew, broke the string on my bow. y'all are going to laugh at this, I had an old PSE Nova, probably the first bow ever made. And exactly right. So it was a perfect bow hunting or a bow fishing rig, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not the biggest deer hunter, and so it just didn't make sense financially for me to go out and buy a brand new bow. And so I was just going to use that this season and really try to put some time in the deer stand and try to get whether it's a pig or whether it's a deer with my bow. And it was just something I kind of set out for myself. And we went and we took it to a guy out in Canton, Texas to see if he could restring it for us. And he looked us dead in the eye and goes, "Gentlemen," he goes, "your bow is not worth it for me to restring this." And he goes, "It's going to be about $150. And he goes, "It's going to take me forever to find these parts." And he's like, I'm not going to do it. And so, we just made the decision, let's go ahead and get a crossbow. And so that way that I can shoot it, and then also, my boys would be able to shoot it as well, because I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And so I just said, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And man, we got the crossbow out, and we sighted it in. And I will say this, even though I know a lot of people give them grief, but man, those things are powerful. And after putting an arrow through a deer, it did damage to where that deer did not run very far. So yeah, I get it, right? There's a lot of purists out there, but at the end of the day, it's a legal way to kill a deer. And I'm not going to put in the time, I'll be honest, I'm not going to put in the time to perfect my shot with a bow to where it made sense to go buy a brand new bow and arrow for me. And so, yeah, I went ahead and pulled the trigger a couple ways on the crossbow, and I've actually been really pleased with it.
Yeah, that's cool. So tell us the story about it. Then you've piqued my interest in how the actual hunt went down, because I actually have only heard a few of the details of this thing.
Yeah. So on this lease, man, it's really a lot of hay meadow, but there are some really decent, wooded areas. And so the last couple of years, we've been hunting on kind of the tree lines where we have feeders and stuff, right? So yes, we are hunting over a feeder in some of our areas, but this year, and I'll be honest, guys, like after listening to you and just being around you guys and, really just trying to get on, in the woods and get on the trails, find those bedding areas, we just got into the woods and we started looking for, where are these deer crossing? And we didn't put a feeder up or anything. We would just kind of chum an area with some corn and throw a camera out there to see if we could get any game on camera. And, once, like literally the first night when we found some really good trails, we went and checked the camera like the next day or two, and we had the just unbelievable deer and pigs and coyotes and bobcats running through this little funnel.
Slade gave us mad props on the podcast here. He's talking about learning something from us, and that gives us a pretty good feeling. Like, a big reason we do this is so that people can learn and hunt more effectively, hopefully. And one way that we've been hunting more effectively, and Slade's kind of talking about this right now, is by using Exodus trail cameras. We've been using them for the last few years, and the use of those cameras on these trails, like Slade is talking about, is a big help for us, especially when we're talking about like the Texas public land woods. It helps us to also identify particular pieces that may or may not have shooter bucks on them, how they're using it, and when to go in and hunt and try to kill these different deer. So anyway, they've been super effective for us. If you guys are interested in using Exodus trail cameras, go to exodusoutdoorgear.com.
And so we hung a deer stand, within, a couple weeks before season started, and we had some decent bucks coming in on camera. And so opening day, this year, I wasn't able to go that morning, and so we went that afternoon. And I told myself, I was like, and here's the deal, guys, I've only shot one deer in my life, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not the biggest deer hunter, but I told myself, look, I am shooting a deer, and I'm filling my tags this year, and I bought my tag, I'm filling it, and I don't care if it's a doe, I don't care if it's a buck. I'm shooting whatever walks out, and I'm filling my freezer. And so that was just my mindset going in. And there was a couple other guys out there with us that are on the lease, and they were like, yeah, right, whatever. You ain't shooting nothing. You've never shot anything in the last, 10, 12 years, right? And they were just giving me a lot of grief. And I said, I'm going to come back with something, buddy. I promise you. And so we're texting the whole time in the deer stand, or I was in the deer stand. Brother-in-law was across the way, and another guy was in the front part of the property, and we were texting. Nothing was happening. It was a pretty slow evening. Anyway, man, I'm just sitting there, and I was like, okay, it's time to get serious, right? Like, I got to put my phone away. I need to really focus on what's happening in the woods, and I really need to pay attention. So I put my face mask on. I got the crossbow ready. It was already loaded, and if you know anything about crossbows, you got to have that bad boy loaded before you get into the stand, because it's hard to reload those things. You can't do it quietly, right? So I got all ready and set up, and I'm just sitting there. It's probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, and I'm sitting there. Everything's pretty still, and the wind. Here's the thing: the wind. My navigational skill set is pretty limited. So where I was standing, where I was sitting, I would say I was like, if anything comes from my left side, and I think that was the north side. I was like, if anything comes from the north side, I'm done, because that's where the wind is literally blowing into, or they're gonna smell me, and I was in the woods, and man, the wind was just circling and circling, and the wind changed directions multiple times. I'm like, man, I'm going to get, winded real quick here. But anyway, the wind kind of stopped, it changed directions on me, and which actually is a good thing here. And so sitting there being real quiet, about 30, 45 minutes later, all of a sudden I hear, and we've all heard it, right? That one little twig snap or that leaf, and you're thinking, okay, here's another daggum squirrel coming through. And I look down, and 20 yards away is this 8-point buck. First thing I've seen all evening, besides raccoon. This dude walked out, and I'm thinking, oh crap, he is about to smell me. I'm going to get something done real quick. and he was not fully broadside yet. He was coming down this trail, and he heard something to his left, and he turned his head. And by the way, I saw that he was outside the ears. I saw that he was an 8-point. And I said, it's time to go. It is, it's time to do work. And so I didn't even have time to get, nervous, right? Like, man, I see a buck or a doe in the stand. I'm getting off, my heart's beating like crazy. And didn't even have a chance to, because I knew that if he was going to be there any longer, he would probably win me. And so he heard something to his left turn, and his body turned just perfectly broadside, 20 yards away, put him in between my 15 and 25 yard pin, and I put that arrow through him, and this dude probably jumped, I swear it was probably 8-9 feet. And I was shocked. I was honestly shocked at the power that crossbow had. And I saw my arrow, it had broke, and I knew it was a good shot. And I was like, okay, because he jumped and then he fell, and then he ran off a little bit more and he fell again, and he dropped out of my sight probably about 50 yards. And I was like, heck yes. And I texted everybody, and I was like, I told y'all suckers I was gonna put a deer down. I was like buck down day one. I was like, get you some. And they're all, is it legal? Like they were giving me crap. They're like, you better hope that's legal, and it was wide enough, and it better be old enough, and all that stuff that your buddies, text you and give you grief about. And so here's the deal, guys. I said, I'm loading back up, and if a doe walks out, I'm shooting her too. And so I'm in this little bitty deer stand, and I reload my crossbow. It's a little bit of work, and it's not probably the safest thing to do in a stand, but thankfully with, I had a safety harness on and stuff as well. And so anyway, I told him, I said, I'm shooting something else tonight. I'm filling my tags. My tags are going to be filled, and they're going to be filled on this lease. And so anyway, about 45 minutes to an hour later, I have probably 8 doe just probably about 60 yards away from me. And where my fell and expired at, they were walking towards him, but they saw him and they smelt him, and they stopped. And what that ended up doing is it changed their path to where they came back around. Well, a doe slipped up, and she was in the exact same spot as the buck I just shot. I'm talking, there was probably a foot difference of where I just shot that buck at it an hour ago. I released an arrow in her. I hit her, and we ended up, we couldn't recover her that evening, but we recovered her a couple of days later, and and it was unfortunately we weren't able to get any meat off of her, and so I was really disappointed in that. But and so anyway, we ended up finding her, thankfully. But I texted him. I was like, doe down. And so here's the deal. Story's not over yet. So I knock another arrow.
So I know there are a few crossbow hunters out there that are listening to this podcast, but for the majority of the listeners, I think there are a lot of compound shooters out there. And for us, we've been using the Cobra archery releases here for the last couple of years, both of us. And for me, I've been using Cobra releases for, I don't know. I mean, since I started, just about 15 years or so, probably, maybe even more. And the Cobra has just worked for me. It's a workhorse. It always has been. And Jake, our friend there at Cobra Archery, is coming up with some awesome new designs. He's really just a great engineering mind, And he's got some cool releases right now. You should check out the Maverick. Super lightweight. It's got a pinch to close, couple of different cool features like that. So go check it out at cobraarchery.com.
And I was like, I'm shooting a pig if a pig comes in. And they're like, shut up. They are like, shut up. And by the way, this is low fence. This is Northeast Texas. This is like it's not some high fence place that we're hunting where we have deer at the feeder, right? I'm in the middle of the woods hunting trails. And so it's getting dark, and I'm like, you know what? I need a little bit of daylight to go look for this deer. I don't really want to look for him in the evening time, and I don't want to go look for this doe and it being too dark. So I get down, and as I'm getting down, I don't see any blood at all. And I'm like, I knew where he expired at, so I just walked over to him. As I'm walking over to him, there's a pig 35 yards away, and he is right next to the deer, the buck that had expired. And anyway, I played kind of cat and mouse with him for a little bit. He never knew I was even there, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a shot on him because it was just too thick. But I almost was able to pull off the trifecta there of getting a buck, a doe, and a pig in the same evening. And this is for a guy that doesn't, do much deer hunting, right? So
yeah,
this was like a huge day for me. Like I've never had that type of day in the woods. And so anyway, long story short, got the buck, didn't get a shot on that pig. Thankfully was able to recover that buck that expired. And man, I'll be honest with you, it was one of the entry wound was right above his shoulder, and it hit bone, and just the power, and that's how that arrow broke. But the power and the velocity of that crossbow, it didn't matter that it hit the bone. My broadhead was bent to smithereens, and it was just. But thankfully, it was a good clean kill, and he expired really quickly. And I should pick him up from the processor here, Monday, I believe.
That's
so
cool.
I'm ready to get to eating on him.
Man, that's awesome, dude. That's a killer story.
So I know that was a long story there.
No,
a long story with a little bit of anecdotes in there, but it was a fun time, and so now I get to sleep in late while all my buddies are waking up trying to go shoot a deer out there.
Yeah, until duck season, right?
That's right. So I've got to get my mind right. So now I'm working with my pup to make sure he's in shape and ready to go day one.
Yeah. Cool, dude. So I got a question for you here. What kind of broadhead were you using?
So it's a fixed broadhead. Here's the deal. I have no idea what it was. Just a broadhead that was in the bow case. And that was honestly a big issue for us because we had some trouble finding some field points. And our field points were like 125 grain, but our broadheads were like 100 grain.
Yeah.
And so whenever we were sighting in the crossbow, which is miserable if you don't have a crossbow target because it just goes in to everything, doesn't come out. So we kind of had to do some, redneck math to figure out, where we were actually sighting in our broadheads at. But it was just some fixed broadhead. I think it was like, I want to say it was like some Yellow Jacket brand or something like that.
Is it 3-blade?
But anyway, 3-blade. Yeah, but it's all bent to head now.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a pretty cool story, though. Like, for your second deer ever, I'm assuming it's been a little while since you shot your first one. Like, to go out and just kind of make a play happen, and have a really eventful night in the stand. It's pretty awesome. And I'll tell you what, though, if you listen to the show much, I've been pretty critical of the crossbow stuff. And I was kind of excited, strangely enough, to hear that you shot this with a crossbow, because you're probably the person I'm closest to who hunts with a crossbow. And, we talked about the stuff a little bit earlier, and I'm not too caught up on the purist thing. I'm like, whatever floats your boat, shoot. But I've had a couple other things brought up to me about crossbows in the past. I kind of wanted to get your take on it.
Of course.
For one thing is I've heard a guy talk about how there's an economic impact to crossbows. That people don't spend much money on stuff to buy crossbows. And that's not really the one that I worry about too much, because it's kind of like, well, maybe the other stuff should just not cost as much. So my other thought is, do you fit the thing that crossbows get is a reduction in the barrier to entry of hunting. And I can kind of see that, because you probably wouldn't have both without a crossbow. But I feel like having a crossbow made it to where you would hunt or not? Or, you know where I'm getting at here? Like, what was the big benefit of hunting with a crossbow as opposed to just waiting to rifle season?
Yep. So it gave me confidence, man. So that was the biggest thing is I was confident that if I shot at a deer, that I would have a clean shot on it and that it would expire, quickly. That was the biggest thing, and it gave me peace of mind being in the stand, and then obviously knowing that you've got that it is easier to sight in. The learning curve, yes, it is very much like I could hand you a crossbow, KC, and you could put it in a dime on a target, right? So it gave me peace of mind, and it gave me that confidence to sit into the deer stand and say, if a legal buck walks out, I'm going to shoot this, and I'm going to be able to take it home. And so that was the biggest thing. And as much as anybody, right? Like with a traditional bow, compound bow, recurve, whatever that you're hunting, right? You have to put in the time and the practice. And I just, with having 3 boys and working, I just haven't had that luxury to dedicate time to a craft such as bow hunting. And so that was for me personally why I chose to go down the crossbow route. And so that's really my answer to that. And but I will say this. I hear both parts of that, right? Like this crossbow came with everything that I needed on it. It's a high functioning producing that I just out of the box make sure that end up on it, and then I'm slinging arrows and I'm adjusting a scope, right? It was I was putting stuff in the kill zone within 2 clicks of after my first shot. So that's really the biggest thing, and so I get that barrier to entry is easier, and I looked at it as I'm probably going to shoot more pigs than anything with this as well, and it allows me to get into the woods and have just something that I can, efficiently kill hogs with. But then also my younger kids who have low vision, they are able to have a device that will hook up to that scope, and they'll be able to utilize, that crossbow, unlike a bow and arrow, where they would have a little bit more of a challenge with a traditional bow. And so I looked at it from a little bit of, me selfishly being able to get into the woods much quicker, but then also for my kids to have a tool that they would be able to utilize with their low vision, right? So there's some pretty cool technology out there that allows you to hook some things up to the scope, which then they can look in their phone, and then they can see the crosshairs in the phone and then take a clean shot. So it's pretty cool to be able to allow them to use it as well.
Yeah, it's pretty snazzy. I like your take on it. Do you feel like after shooting a deer with a crossbow, are you more or less likely to go to a compound bow in the future after that experience?
You know what, man? I really enjoyed it. I will probably stick with it just for the fact that I like that I can go put it in the target, shoot it a handful of times, and I'm ready to go, and I'm confident that I can be successful with it. And like my first deer I shot was 10, 11 years ago. That's my second deer I've ever shot. So that may change as I get into the woods more, over these next few years and really try to go after, whitetail more. So kind of to be determined on that one. I don't know if I can make a call on that.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I tell you what, the older I get, the more libertarian I become in my views, and it's kind of like, man, just everybody do what they do and don't kill all the deer, make sure there's more. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I'm starting to look at things nowadays, and I think it's cool that you're able to go do this, man, and get it done opening day. It's pretty dang sweet.
Yeah. So I got a question in this same vein here. Do you think that maybe the reason you haven't shot a deer, or you went nearly 10 years between shooting your first and your second deer, has to do with the fact that our rifle season tends to compete with duck season?
Oh, 100%. Now, I'll be honest. I've missed a couple of deer with my it was my trusty companion there for a number of years with the old PSE Nova. I did miss a couple, and you've been in it. You've been in a duck blind with me before, Tyler. So you know how impatient I am in just a duck hunting setting. So, sitting in in the middle of the woods is not typically my cup of tea.
Yep.
But I'm learning to get better at it as I get older. But yeah, man. But yeah, definitely. I'll go once or twice during rifle season, and so I don't want to go. I'd rather spend my time and especially my tokens with the wife and the family, right? In an early morning duck hunt, I can be back before lunch, and I'm not in the woods all day waiting for a whitetail, right? So I'm able to really get into the woods and be more efficient with my time with waterfowl as well.
Sure.
Yeah. You bring up a good point there too that I didn't really think about. I didn't know, but I mean, you did the compound thing and had some issues, and then found you a weapon that you could be successful with, and that's you got to commend the guy for that. So that's a good point there.
Perseverance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'll be honest, I'm not the greatest shot with a bow, and heck, much less with a rifle, because I got so used to shooting things with a shotgun, right? And you just
throw it up and pull
first couple times. Yeah, exactly, man. Just it's all instinct, right? You're used to that recoil, and you're kind of anticipate it, and so really just putting something up against my shoulder and pulling the trigger is not the easiest thing for me to do. And so, yeah, my success rate in the deer woods have not been super great, and so it's even with the crossbow, it took a little time to just pull your finger back, pull your finger back, right? Don't pull that shoulder and anticipate a kick, right? So, that's something as well that I need to practice more, especially with the crossbow, and then and even with the rifle, right? But now I will just focus on duck hunting and
there you go.
Lose everything that I just taught myself with this crossbow. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that to do the audience service here, something we do need to talk about is using the doe. And believe me, I'm not being critical because I've lost animals and it stinks. But we were talking about the efficiency of the crossbow and how effective it was. What ended up happening with that doe, man?
Man, we couldn't find blood. We could not find blood on her. And that's the same thing with the first deer. Like we've all shot a deer, and it's like that bullet just goes through and through, and you can't find you're like, dadgum, must have been a high powered round or something that went through them. And, but for whatever reason, I could not find blood on her, and I couldn't even find blood on the buck, except for the pile that was underneath him whenever we found him. Yeah. And so we looked forever. We even pulled out the thermal as well, and she just ended up going down a path that and then went down into a creek, and that we just, while we were scoping with the thermal, we were unable to and unsuccessful to find her, but she wasn't too far as well, but she just wasn't where we could find a blood trail, and then with the thermal just couldn't be on a level playing field where she was at. And so we were a little disappointed in that for sure, because man, that's the last thing I want to do is expire an animal and not be able to do it respect and justice by putting it in our freezer and feeding my family with it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I understand it for sure. It's a reality of hunting. It's never fun, but it does happen. We need to get you some of these day sixes. That way, you're cutting real clean through them things. You can get you a good blood trail.
Exactly, right. And that's the thing. I will definitely take you up on that for sure. I will take you up on that.
Well, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it. I know you're super busy, man, with all your CrossFit and everything you're doing now, and you're dominating small kids.
Yeah, he's got some pull-ups to do now.
Oh, baby, that's it. Yeah, I did a workout while we were on this call.
Yeah,
it was a whole bunch of push-ups and pull-ups and air squats. Yeah.
That's great, man. Well, thanks for the time, man, and I can't wait till we do duck hunt again this year, man.
Yeah, guys. Well, hopefully your listeners can take something away from this, and they don't you don't lose listeners from this. So I appreciate y'all giving me a call, and it's always good to hear y'all's voices, and I can't wait to see the continued success y'all have this season.
Well, thanks, man.
Man, what an awesome story about a big buck. Guys, we want to say a big thanks to Exodus Trail Cameras and Cobra Archery for being a part of this big buck breakdown.
For sure, man. And also, if you want to check out what we do on a daily basis, maybe even see some of these big bucks, go to Instagram and follow us at The Element Wild. And then also subscribe on YouTube to keep up with what we're doing throughout the season. And subscribe on the podcast. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.
I'll swim across and meet you on the other side. I'm not sure why we even have to fight. We grew up in the same situation. The river between us caused a lot of frustration. Brothers, let's forgive and forget.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.